Hello friends. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I wrote a Terraform module, to provision several cloud resources in um in in several provinces, right, in Canada. So Canada has like 10 provinces, right? So and imagine you want to provision, like for example, an EC2 instance, or maybe EC2 instance, S3 buckets, DynamoDB table, a database. In each of these um, in each of these provinces, how can you write a Terraform module that can help you to do that? So let's look at Terraform module, right? So basically, when you are writing a module, you have what is called the root module, right? And also you have the child module. So I'm not going to go into all this, but basically think of the root module as the file where you can where that contains your provider, for example, AWS, and also that that contains the um that's the file with from which you call your child module, right? So, and also the file where you define all the configuration, and the file that you actually execute, right? So that's the root module. So the child module, of course, is the module where you actually put in the resources that you want to create, right? You put in the resources and all that so but let's just go into it. So I used the AWS Cloud9, right? So it's just Cloud9 is just like Visual Studio Code, right? So where you can write your code, you know, create your files and all that. So I open this, so this might take a while. So once I open the Cloud9, okay, it's open, right? This is it. So it's open, and let me just clear. So this is it, right? So let me just show you. So this is the Cloud9. Um this Cloud9 environment, right? You can write your code, create files and all that. So now one thing I just want to let you know is that if you look at this project infrastructure, this is actually a repository that I created using using AWS code commit, right? So I created this repository. It's kind of like GitHub, right? It's kind of like a rep when you create a repository in GitHub. So, but now this is like AWS, their own GitHub. So you can clone that repo, right, to Cloud9, right? So if you see what I did was I just cloned it. I just did git clone, then I copied the URL, right? So if you copy it, it will show that that repository is already there. So if I paste, so you see, so if you look at it now, it says already exists, right? So let's just do ls. So the repository is already there. So this is the repository. So if I do cd, if I go into this repository, cd, then I go into that repository. So I'm inside now, and you can see that this is actually a repository, like kind of like a Git repository, right? You see the master branch, right? So let me do ls on this. You see, so I created this, like folder or directory, right? So I created this directory where I put all my files and the module, right? So let me do ls into this directory. I mean, cd into this Terraform directory, paste. Then yeah, so now I'm inside. So if I do ls now, so now this ls here, you see that I created this main.tf file is actually the parent module, right? So let me do a cat. Let me do cd. Let me do a cat on the main.tf file. So you see it contains the provider, and also it contains you know, it contains this module that is calling this child module, right? So, but to kind of make things a little bit clear, let me just I'm just going to come here. So if you look at this place here, so you see, let me, so this is the Terraform directory. Now, inside this Terraform directory, you have let me so you have this main.tf file, output.tf file, variable.tf file. So, but now the child module is this AWS infrastructure. AWS infrastructure. Okay, so let me just clear this, and then we'll go into each of the file one by one. So now, inside this Terraform directory, this repository, Terraform dir, which is the repository, I created, just use mkdir-v for parent. Then I created these modules, right? So you have modules, I think that's a /, then you have this child module, right? AWS infrastructure. So AWS infrastructure. So let me see. So if I try to do that now, it's going to show that modules, AWS infrastructure. So if I try to do that now, I know it's not creating something different. Let me see. Okay, so I think it should be forward. It should be backward /. So let me remove that and delete this. So this is not what I want to create. So I'm going to delete it. So let me, so this should be backward. Yeah. So basically it's creating this module folder and then also this AWS infrastructure. So, but if I hit enter now, it's going to show that it already exists. So let me hit enter. Something does not look right. Let's see. So this under Terraform directory. I have modules, AWS. Okay, I think is there. So I don't know why it, normally it should show that it already exists, but yeah. So, but that's the idea. So you create this module first, and then this module folder first, right? Then inside that, you now create this AWS infrastructure. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cd into this, copy, paste. Okay. So now inside this AWS infrastructure, the first thing I created was the variable.tf, right? The variable.tf. So let me open this. So let me bring this one down. So no. So I created the variable.tf, trying to do this such that bring this one. Okay, bring it this way. Yeah, this is what I want. Terminal, yeah. Okay. So I created this variable.tf first, right? And because I'm going to be using it in my file. Then after that, I created the main.tf. So this main.tf is very, very important because this is where we are actually creating the resources, right? So what I want to create is I want to create first the EC2 instance, this resource, right? So, but before I need to create the EC2 instance, I need to create the security group, which is going to define the because we should be able to access our application, right, via SSH, and also the users from the internet or from the public, they should be able to access the application. So we need to define the port from which they can do that. So that's why I have to create this security group first. It's showing reconnect. Okay, let me reconnect. So that's why I had to create this resource, this security group first, right? So yeah, so I created, so this ingress, this block here is to define the ports to be able to access the EC2 instance via SSH. And this other ingress is to define the port. So basically this 00 here, this one, this cider block here, is showing that users from the internet, they can access the they can access the EC2 instance, right? So now this tag here is going to be in all the resources. Is, for example, if you want to get all the resources that are created in the province, Ontario, or maybe Alberta, right? You know, this tag is to help to get all the resources that are created in a particular province, right? Then you have this resource is to create the EC2 instance. And if you look at here now, right, we made reference to the security group, right? So if you look at this, you have AWS security group, which is this AWS security group here, dot the province, you see that province EC2 SG. Then this ID is just an attribute, right? You know, to be able to get the ID of the security group, right? And use it in the creation of the EC2 instance, right? So yeah, so that's it. Then we also put the tag, right? Then we also created the DynamoDB table, right? You know, and the S3 bucket. Now this S3 bucket, created it, we had to, this random string is used to make the name of the S3 bucket dynamic, right? So if you look at this bucket, right, then so you have the human gov variable. I mean, this is we are referring this var, we are just referring to this variable, right? Variables. So var.province name, see this province name here, right? Then we have S3, then random string dot bucket suffix. So this random string, this is it here, right? Then bucket suffix, right? So this one is just to be able to kind of like create a random string, you know, like you have maybe, for example, human, so it's going to be human gov, then the name of the state, then dash S3, then it's going to put a random string, right? Maybe 1, 2, 4, 5, because it's going to be the length of the random string is going to be 5, right? From this length here, it's going to be 5. So that's what this main.tfi is doing. Then you have the outputs. These are the outputs that we want. So let me click on this output. So we want, you know, the DNS, right? We want the DynamoDB, right? The name, and then we want the public, like kind of like the public IP for the instance. Then we want, for this one, we want the name of the S3 buckets. So that's it for the child module, the AWS infrastructure. These are the 3 files there, the main.tf, the output.tf, the variable.tf. Now coming to the, let me see, once you are done with this, then once you come out, then you will created the variable.tf, right? Now this variable.tf, you just put all you have the variable provinces, then you put the names of the provinces, right, in a list, right? So you put it in a list because we are going to use it in our root module, in the parent module. So you put that in a list. Now let me come to the main.tf file. This one now, this main.tf is different from this main.tf. So that's why I closed it. So let me close this other main.tf so that we are not confused. And this other variable.tf. Let me close this output as well. So this main.tf, right? So this one, so this like this, the main, you know, where you execute, right? So you put your provider, which is AWS, then you put the module. So this module is a standard in Terraform, right? If you are writing a module, if you want to call another module, right? If you want to call a child module, you have to put this module, then you put the name, right? The name that you can use to call the child module, right? Which is AWS infrastructure. Then the source of the child module, right? Which is, you have module. If you look here, if I click here, modules, under modules, then you have AWS infrastructure, right? So it will have, so once you hit run or you hit Terraform apply, it will be coming back here to, to create the resource from the main.tf file here. So you have this module, then you have this for each, right? So this var.province, so let me see this variable, right? So this provinces, right, is going to take this list here. It's kind of like that this var.province is going to be equal to this list here, right? And, it's going to put it like a set, right? And then province name, each value is going to take this each value we take, for example, is going to take maybe Ontario, right? It's going to take Ontario, and then it's going to, come to this, the loop is going to, the loop will come to this, this source, this AWS, this child module, and then it's going to create the resources for Ontario. It's going to create the DynamoDB, the security group, the web server, the EC2 instance, the DynamoDB table. So this for each, for example, can be maybe Ontario, right? And this Ontario is inside this list here, right? Inside this list, this variable var.province, which will be equal to, for example, Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, right? And then it's just going to, that's like a loop, right? It's just going to, once you put it in, it's just going to, create it. So now let me just come back to Terraform module, right? So let me show you what I was talking about, this, for each and to set. So if I come to Terraform module, let me click on module block. So under module block, you see this is the module that I was talking about, calling a child module. You see this documentation. Then, but let me come to, let me see, meta arguments. Okay, so you see for each, right? So if I click on see for each page, so you see how it's, you see this is an example for Azure. So this is an example of what I was talking about. So this to set, for each to set, so it's going to take the list, right? The list, then for each key will now be, it will take this stored, right? Then it will run whatever it has to run. Then after that, it will take this James. Each key will now be equal to James. Then once it take it, then once it's provision whatever I want to provision, then it goes to this. Each key now will now be what? Alice, right? It will just provision. So the same thing we have here. The same thing we have here. So you have each value, right? Each value to take these var provinces will be equal to this list here. This list here, just like we have in this, to set, you have to set, then you have a list, right? So, but we already put a variable. So that's one benefit of using a variable. You don't have to put all that here. So, to just do it. So that's it. Then you have the output. I think the last file here is the output. So it's the output. So the output, which is basically to get, so now for this output, let me see. So province infrastructure output value for province. So this output, let me see. I think we have this output here. Okay, this was the output. So this was the output. This particular output here was the output that is inside the child module, right? So we are referring, so this particular output, so you see here now, for example, if you have province _EC2 public DNS, right? Then if you look at this one now, this is a this output is so you have province infrastructure output. So for province infrastructure in module, so in module.aws infrastructure, right? So and as a province, this is like a loop, right? So this is a loop for, so it's a province is equal to, so EC2 public DNS will now be infrastructure dot province EC2 public DNS. So let me see. So which is this province EC2 public DNS. Then for this one now, DynamoDB table will now be infrastructure, right, dot province DynamoDB table. So this is the province DynamoDB table here. Then you have infrastructure, which is this infrastructure dot province S3 bucket. So this province S3 bucket. So that's just it. So and then you can just do your Terraform init, um, you know. So I just remember something now, right? So let me kill all this. Let me kill all this. So in this main.tf file, right? This the one inside the child module. So what's happening here? Oops. So if you observe that the key name, right, is province EC2, so you have to create that key, right? So we have to create that key. You have to go to like AWS under EC2 instance, you create the key pair and you put it there. So that's just something I just remembered. So yeah, so that's just it. And then one can run your Terraform, I think, init. You can format, you can validate, Terraform plan, Terraform apply, and then, the resources can be provisioned. So yeah, so that's it.